Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fin Factor. I'm Paul, and Aaron is not with us tonight because he's out making babies. Or, not making babies, but delivering babies. And actually not even doing that either. He was just kind of sitting there rooting his wife on. Aaron is a father for the third time as of today. So therefore, he chose to do that instead of this show. Selfish, I know. But you know what? We got him. You guys have been asking for him. Marshall is on the show. Can we get some claps or some flames or something in the chat for Marshall here? Give it to him, guys. Go ahead, Marshall. How you doing?
Thanks, Paul. I'm glad to be hopefully an equally impressive bald-headed white guy. Say a few mildly intelligent things about hockey this evening in Aaron's place. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. And I see already Aaron in the chat saying, hey now, buddy. Congratulations, buddy. That's too cool. I love the name too. I don't know if I'm okay to share it or not, but for me, I do love the name. If you wanted to give that to everyone, go right ahead. Okay, so let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. Vegas Golden Knights. This was, like a week ago. We played and the Sharks lost that one. It was a 3-1 loss. I'm not going to go too much into all of these games. We're going to hit on a few points here and there. But one of the main things that came out of this game was Schimmick's injury. I forget, I think it was Riley Smith had the puck and Schimmick gave him kind of a bump, knocked him off. They were both actually going for the puck before he actually got there. So he bumped him before they got the puck, and Jonathan Marchessault took exception to it and goes right after Schimmick, runs him into the boards. Now, the hit looked clean to me, but it was malicious in nature. And you could definitely tell he was going after Schimmick for that one. And then I think it was seconds later in the same shift, here comes Marchessault again and cross-checks Schimmick right in the ribs, and Schimmick goes not just to the bench, but he goes off. And now Schimmick's been on the IR for the past, I think, 3 games now. So I just want to start off. Marshall, go ahead. And what do you think about that hit? I mean, it looked pretty dirty to me, at least the second one with the cross-check.
Yeah, you could tell obviously Marchessault was responding in the first one, but I think you're right. It's probably more of a clean one. The second one at the NHL level, Marchessault knows where to hit a guy where there isn't any padding, and obviously he's taking that cross check right to the ribs. For Schimmick, I mean, that's frustrating enough. I think the next piece that everyone out there is probably talking about and largely are frustrated by is the fact that nobody on the ice for the Sharks or throughout the game really came after Marchessault, really anybody on the Golden Knights, and that's disappointing at a lot of levels, frankly, for a team where you need to be standing up for a guy who's doing everything right for you. Absolutely.
No, and Bob said as much as well. He was not at all happy with the response. He wants them to be teammates, not just on the ice, but also off the ice, and vice versa, obviously. So for them to kind of sit there and stare at it, and Hurdle have made the comment too, I need to do something. That's my fellow countryman and my teammate, and I need to be able to step up. And Hurdle's not a guy that's going to drop the gloves very often or anything like that, but when you see your player kind of get ran like that, anybody on the ice should step up and respond. And in this case, there was just no response whatsoever. So Bob really gave it to him. He talked to him, post game and probably between periods, saying, hey, you guys need to start acting like a team out here, stick up for each other. And generally speaking, it's only been Evander Kane who is the guy that comes in and does that. So to be able to see as these games progress, more and more of these guys kind of stepping up for each other. We saw some of the younger guys on defense. I think it was Clayson and Knizhov, these guys kind of stepping up and shoving guys out of the net saying, hey, get out of here. It's my goalie. Or, they didn't like the way, somebody was hit and they kind of get in their face a little bit. And that's not just Evander Kane. So it seems like that little talking to might have gone a little bit of a longer way, which is not such a bad thing. And speaking of Kane, Bob was not happy at all with Evander Kane taking the penalties that he did in this game. VGK is definitely in Evander Kane's head. It's one of those things where, Ryan Reeves knows what he's doing. He's laughing every time he takes Evander Kane to the penalty box with him, and it's not productive for the team. And I've said this before, Marshall, and Aaron certainly knows, I would much rather have Evander Kane on the ice, scoring goals, making plays, crushing bodies, than fighting a guy who's a fourth liner and a goon. And just because you want to show that you're, better than him, fisticuffs or whatever, I would rather not have him in the box. I'd rather have him on the ice. And I think that's one of the things that Bob Boughner was very upset with about Evander Kane in that game.
Yeah, I think this is sort of the reaction, I think, from Kane when he's the only one who's really responding, right? I think this was the big question mark with Dylan and Barclay Goodrow not coming back or, just going elsewhere, not necessarily of their own choice in the last 2 seasons. And I don't think we really backfilled anybody who's got that kind of sandpaper and the ability to take the load off of Evander Kane. And I don't think he's got I think he needs to mature a little bit as well to make sure he just doesn't take stupid penalties and just run around for no reason. But I feel like rightly he feels like he's got to lead the charge on the physicality, and it leads to what you saw in the game against Vegas.
Absolutely. And when we talk about Šimić having to leave the game early, unfortunately, we didn't lose one, but two defensemen, two top four defensemen, no less. So Karlsson left the game early. I guess he injured his groin, but it's not the same injury that he had from before. And if I remember, the first time he got injured, it was the groin. Well, it was with San Jose. It was the groin. Yeah. The second time, it was the groin, but it wasn't the same groin. And then now this time, it's the groin. But how many groins does the human body have?
That's a good question. I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure it's less than 3, if I had to guess.
I'm with you on that one. Again, not a doctor, but either there's one central area or there's 2 areas where the legs connect or what. I don't know. So apparently it's a different groin. I sure, why not? So this is again one of those things where it's some people hate it, some people don't mind it, but when you get this lower body injury and they don't tell you anything about what's going on and they tell you that, oh, it's not the thing that I've had before, and you just can't help but think they're just lying at this point, right? Regardless, I've always stuck up for Erik Karlsson, saying, the guy is a phenomenal talent. A lot of the times, maybe it's things like he makes a really sharp pass and it just explodes off of like Kevin LeBank's stick or something, right? So it's hard to blame the guy passing the puck when he makes the pass and the other guy just can't receive it, right? So I kind of have a hard time blaming him for that kind of stuff. Having said that, and again, I don't like this idea that he's the glass cannon guy. He's made out of glass, right? I don't like that comparison and that analogy for Erik Karlsson, because I don't think it's really warranted. Like the Achilles tendon, he got stepped on. He can't. It's not like he just got injured. Somebody slices Achilles tendon. He can't help that, right? Yep. I think anybody would have the same problem. It doesn't mean that you're made out of glass. However, even I have to admit now that this contract is really not looking good for the San Jose Sharks. The guy can't get through a whole season. He's spending a lot of time on the injury reserve. Do I still think he's a very good player? Absolutely. And when he comes back and he's 100%, actually 100%, can he absolutely run this team and give them the push that they need from the blue line going forward to score some goals and make some offense? Absolutely. I believe that 100%. Yeah. But he's not in the lineup often enough to get it done.
Well, I think it's a combination of not in the lineup. I mean, if you go back, I think January 2019, right? That was the stretch where he looked amazing, right? In the first season, was healthy. People adjusted to how he plays. They could anticipate what he was going to do, which is like a double problem, right? He's got to be healthy. And then he's such a cerebral player in addition to just a phenom. Like, people have to know where to be when he's moving the puck. Then if they don't, he gets frustrated and tries to do too much, and you end up with a lot of turnovers that don't make a lot of sense, even though I think he's thinking the game correctly. I agree with you. I think the unfortunate Band-Aid boy glass groin stuff starting to be a lot more deserved. And we were talking about it in the lead up to the broadcast. But, one of the questions I've been bouncing around my own head, does Hasso Plattner have enough money? I think he does. Hopefully he's got the will. If you ever needed to or felt like, this contract and Karlsson just can't perform, long-term IR maybe at some point, if the groin 3 times in 3 years, like that's starting to be, that doesn't get fixed, right? That can kill people's career. I don't know if it's that dire yet, but it's something to think about for sure.
Well, but it's a different groin every time. So if he gets injured again, says it's the groin, but it's not the same thing, I'm done. No. So I think I like what you said there. It's a guy who's got the work ethic, who's talented, but for whatever reason, he's just not able to get it done. Someone who is far younger and doesn't play defense and fits half of that bill is Dylan Gambrell. Now, he's able to get it done. And I've been a guy that's been looking at Dylan Gambrell and saying, I don't like his game. I don't think he's ready for the NHL. This was last season. Whatever he did, okay, I don't know how many times a day he was eating his Wheaties or what the case is, but this kid is so strong on the puck now. He's smart with the puck. He's quick with the puck now. There's a lot of things about his game that I really, really love. And I couldn't help but notice in this game that they actually started off with the Gambrell line during the game. The first puck drop, right, was Gambrell's line out there, not Couture, not Hurdle. It was Gambrell. So it just kind of prompted me to ask this question. I was in the post-game interviews with Bob Boughner and some of the players, and I actually got to ask Bob this question here. So go ahead, super producer Jason, we'll roll this clip.
Hey, Coach. You started the game with Gambrell line, and I noticed that after the first goal, you responded by immediately putting him back on the ice. Can you just say a little bit about the confidence level with that line?
Yeah, I thought that, we asked that line to be an energy line. And, I thought Gambrell, obviously he creates speed with his, it's unfortunate he hasn't created a lot of offense yet because he's played well, and I thought that Gabriel provided us, good grit on that line. And Marcus was, up and down. I liked that line, but I think, at home, a little easier to match, obviously. That line, Pete plays four lines. So it allows you as the home coach to obviously play four lines, which we wanted to do. And, we played a lot of hockey, so we got to roll our bench. And I thought that line did a good job.
Yeah. So Bob Boughner really liking the Gambrell line and all the things that they bring to the table. I'm going to say one more thing. Actually, Carlson, he when he was out and there was a man in the box, which, by the way, Aaron in the comments here had said he's pulled his own groin on either side of his legs. It's definitely different, but that's only two sides, not three. So there you go. There is no third groin. It's a magical thing. However, having said that, when Carlson was out and they had a man in the box, I kind of had to just check my glasses to make sure that I wasn't seeing Kanija because I saw a 7, but all I saw was a 7. Dylan Gambrell had a couple shifts playing defense, even on the PK. So that blew my mind. I'm going, okay, I guess they just really needed a guy. So actually, when Logan Couture came on for that post game, I got to ask Logan about that. So we'll go ahead and roll that. Or not. Dylan Gambrell.
And with Carlson out near the end there, did Dylan Gambrell just draw the short straw? Did he volunteer?
I don't know if he volunteered. I volunteered. I got turned down though. Because I played a few overtime shifts a few years ago in with Pete. So I figured I could go back there, but Gamby did a good job. I mean, when you get down to 4 and then you got a guy in the box on the back end, you're going to need some bodies back there. So a few guys were throwing their hat in the ring, and Gamby was picked. I thought he did a good job.
Thank you, super producer Jason. Yeah, so as he calls him, Gamby, got picked to be out there playing defense. Now, I don't think that's one of those things that you just kind of throw anybody out there. I think you've got a lot of trust in Dylan Gambrell defensively to be out there. He's playing alongside Marc-Edouard Vlasic. Now, some people, aren't very high on Vlasic, but if you're going to be out there with anybody, the guy who's spent his entire career trying to be defensive is probably the guy that you want next to you if you're a forward trying to play defense, wouldn't you say?
I would think so. I didn't have a chance to do it before the show. I guess we should have thought about it, Paul, but Gambrell, I didn't look back through his junior or college career. I wonder if he has, a couple of shifts or a couple seasons playing defenseman a little bit like Burns has, forward and defenseman over the years. I bet he might have something there just that would make him a better pick for putting on the back line.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I have no idea. One guy who I do know would have paired very well with Vlasic, and Lundy with the $1.99 super chat says, if only we had Braun. Oh, Lundy. Marshall, if you've not been following along with Lundy here, he's just about every show. He makes a comment about wanting to have Braun back. And we certainly do appreciate the super chat there, Lundy, but I think the Braun ship has sailed. I'm very sorry to inform you of that. Having said that, the last thing I want to talk about with this game, and it was, again, another post-game thing I got to ask Logan. Jonathan Becker, president of the San Jose Sharks, had shared some images previously of SAP Center being going through some changes, undergoing upgrades to the coolant, the piping that goes underneath the ice surface. And it being their first game back on home ice, I wanted to ask someone, and I wanted to ask actually Bob, but I didn't get the opportunity. They kind of cut me off. That's okay. But so Logan was there, and I asked Logan, I said, what's been like the quality of the ice now that you guys are back? So actually, that's the last clip we'll roll from this game. Go ahead, super producer Jason.
Hey, Logan. The SAP Center had some work done to the coolant system under the ice during the COVID break there. Did you notice anything different about the quality of the ice today compared to seasons past?
Yeah, it was great. The last 5 minutes it got a little snowy, but that's the way that the ice in the NHL usually is. It gets a little slower at the end of periods, but compared to what it has been in the past, not that we have had terrible ice here. That's never an excuse, but I thought the ice was very, very good at the start of every period.
And I asked that question specifically because I wanted to be able to share that feedback with Jonathan Becker, although I'm sure he's got the feedback from the players anyway. But anything else that you wanted to talk about with this game in particular?
Well, as I wish they had that system up in Tahoe today for the Tahoe series, since the ice was not quite up to snuff. In fact, we're missing the second and third periods, I think, of that game going on right now, the latest game of the day. Yeah. I guess the other question I had for you, Paul, and maybe it's the next game as well. The Sharks' weird start to the season, obviously a very weird start just with COVID for everybody, but with the Sharks in particular having to be in Arizona, just getting their first home game. We're I'm jumping to the end here, 14 games in the season if you count tonight for the played games for the Sharks. Do you think we have a good feel for the team here with the mix of being on the road the whole time? Or do you think we need to see more time at home with the homestand coming for it to be really honest representation of what the Sharks actually have in their lineup? And I guess the reason I'm asking it on the game against Vegas, first home game, I don't know if home ice for the Sharks even matters at this point or not. Other than the last change, it's just hard to think about whether that really drives or changes how they're going to play or not. But I don't know if you have an opinion on it or what.
Yeah, ever the optimist for me, right? So I'm kind of in the boat where, we have a lot of home games left. It's the proportions are so tilted in our favor as the season goes on, right? Because we've done so many away games right out of the gate there. But you're right, things like the small things like the last change. Those are things that the coach gets to control, right? And he hasn't had the opportunity to control that through all these other games. Now let's take a look at our record. We're just about 500, right? So if you were to tell me that this team that was supposed to be bottom of the barrel when everyone was trashing on them before the season even started, saying we're going to be the worst team in the NHL or we're ready for a draft pick and all the other stuff, we're going to get a high pick, everything else, right? If you were to tell me that we'd be close to 500 and the majority of the games would have been on the road, I would have taken that, by comparison to where everybody else had us. So when you say, do you think we have a good gauge for where we are as a team? On the one hand, I do, because I feel like we've seen a lot of what the team is capable of, right? We've seen them bounce back from games. We've seen them kind of falter, and we know that that's going to happen. We've seen them have great, incredible periods, and then they don't play the full 60 minutes. And I kind of expect that's more or less what we're going to see out of this team kind of as the season goes on. Having said that, no, I don't think that we do know necessarily, because this coaching staff is still instilling all of these different systems and different methodologies of play. And it's starting, you can tell. And they even said it too. It's starting to gel. It's starting to crystallize, right? It's starting to become a part of their game where they're not thinking about it anymore. They're just running the system. And they're able to roll 4 lines. They're able to play the Gambrell line as the first line out and the first line that comes out after the other team scores a goal. So I think all those things kind of together, it points it in, or I should say it kind of shines a nicer light on the situation. Even if we've had, maybe, like I said, about 500 record, it kind of shows that this team is capable of more. So, I kind of where we're at right now, I like where we're at, all things considered, by comparisons to where we should have been. But I also think that we've just got so much more in that we haven't done many games at home. And in that, we've just got so many more guys that are really learning the system and really playing the system now. And I think we got more guys that are coming into their own. Rudolph's Balsers scored a couple goals tonight. That's not a guy that I would have thought would just come into the lineup and just start producing. Ryan Donato has stepped up. He was supposed to be the third line guy, and then he's the second line guy, and he's kind of floating back and forth. But every single night he gives that effort. We saw Evander Kane after the Vegas game have a really rough game, and then he comes back and later on this week, and he looks very strong. And we'll talk about those things later on too. So I think in one hand, I feel like I get a gauge for what this team is and what they're capable of. On the other hand, I feel like we still have a higher ceiling than what we've seen. So who knows how high it can go? I don't know. How do you see it?
But I think I asked him the question just because I was curious about, home ice. Does it matter this year at all for the Sharks or anybody for that matter, but the Sharks in particular, given the weirdness to the start? I tend to agree. I think we haven't seen everything yet. I think there's a higher ceiling than they've got. I don't know how high it really is. I think there is still some pieces that we don't have, but to be 500, 14 games in, which is quarter of the season almost, given how short it's going to be this year. I mean, that's not a bad place to be for the team I think everyone thought we had coming into the season.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely agree with you on that one there. So let's move on to the Anaheim game. That was a 3-2 win in regulation at home. Again, I think going back to what you were talking about with home ice advantage and whatnot beyond just the coaching, I think there is something to be said for just having a home cooked meal and being with your family when you can. When you're on the road for that long, even Bob said that we look like a team that's been on the road for 35 days. They look tired. They look like they just want to be out of there. And when we Aaron interviewed Steph Nason, he said as much as well. The second we had the opportunity to go home, we left. There's a mental side to this too, right? Not just strategic, like I was saying with the coaches. There's a mental side to this, and I think that even just being able to go home, right? Just to go home, not to be in a hotel room every single day, is something that is going to help them, with their games going forward. And hopefully that is the case, because I really do think that this team is still capable of a playoff spot, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, back to Anaheim again, 3-2 win in regulation. Was there something in particular you want to talk about this? I know like John Leonard scored his first goal in this one, so that's definitely a topic. Go ahead and take it away.
I mean, John Leonard scoring, that's always good to see somebody get to put one in the back the net for the first time and get to keep the puck, I think, afterward, if I saw the video correctly. I don't know. I mean, Mario Ferraro, probably more of the story of the game, given he seemed like he had bad luck than good luck as he went throughout the game. Someone who, through no fault of his own, was kind of scoring on his own team.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in just a second. First of all, what we'll do is, again, we've got probably just two more videos here, but just one where I was asking John Leonard about adjusting to the NHL, and I kind of put him on the spot because I told him that don't answer it this way. Let's see what else you got, and we'll see what he says. Go ahead.
You always hear from rookies that the speed is the hardest thing to adjust to at the NHL level. Besides that, what would you say is like the next toughest to adjust to?
Yeah, obviously speed's a big part of it. I think the other thing is everyone can make plays, right? In the smallest areas, whether they're making a play through your stick or, trying to get behind you with an area pass. So I think, just being aware who's out there is obviously a huge part too. Just, playing hard at all times. And like I said, those little plays that, every guy on the ice can make is, makes a big difference.
Thanks, and congrats again.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I tried to take the cliche, it's so fast away from him. And I like that I did that because he gave me an answer that I wasn't really expecting. Everybody is capable of making plays and making plays in tight. You kind of take that for granted, I think, when you watch NHL hockey, right? You just think that everybody's just capable. And, for a guy coming in from college to go straight into the NHL, and then, you have these guys that everybody is better than you essentially and able to make these plays in really small, tight areas. I just thought that was a really interesting response from him, and something that kind of got away from, the NHL is so fast,
I like the classic, stoic hockey player first NHL, goal. And he's like, yeah, whatever. It's fine. Like, yeah, there we go.
Act like you've been there, right? So now we'll hit on Mario Ferraro. Okay. So poor Mario. I love this guy. I can't say enough about him. He's got all the energy in the world, and he's got all the talent in the world. And I think we need to clone more. We need to clone more Mario Ferraros for this world of hockey that we live in. However, the first goal against was one that goes in off of his skate. He was trying to play defense. He was trying to catch up, got a little overzealous, and when he threw his skate out there, it bumped the puck, slid in between Brent Burns' legs, and then underneath Jones' pad. And he probably did not feel too hot after that one. So one goal against, thanks to Mario Ferraro. And then the second goal, unfortunately, he was trying to stop a pass. It was a cross creaser. And it looked like it was a really phenomenal goal, except he got his stick on it. He got the blade on it, and the puck flips up, deflects over Martin Jones' shoulder, goes in. So he's responsible, sort of, for 2 goals against in that game. And of course, the Sharks end up winning 3-2. So both of those goals came off of Mario Ferraro. And there was a point in the game even where the puck was down low and he kind of pounced on top of it. And it looked like he was about to bump it in again. I go, he's going for the anti-hat trick. This poor guy, my goodness. So I don't know. Anyway, did you have any thoughts? I know you brought it up earlier. Do you want to say something?
An anti-hat trick. I like that phrase. I think you covered it well.
Okay, good. Yeah, and you always hear about the reverse sweep, which to me makes no sense anyway. So I figure I'll make a phrase that makes no sense either, the anti-hat trick. Okay, so we actually do have a video. This is the last video I think we have about this one here. I actually got to ask Bob Boughner about Mario Ferraro and him not getting rattled for kicking those 2 goals in.
Hey, Coach. Mario accidentally scored twice in his own net, but the whole game he played with tremendous energy. How important is it for a young player to not let the mistakes impact their game?
Yeah, he's a guy that's he's been playing against top lines most of the year, and it's easy to get rattled as a young guy. And Mario's one of those guys that he's just he's got the ability to put things behind him. And again, he has a job to do. He played against that Raquel line all night, and and you could tell how he could take time and space away off of that line. And it's good to see him regroup. It's good to see him not get rattled. And, look who's out there at the end of the game when we need a big play defensively. It's Mario.
So Coach having some really nice things to say about Mario Ferraro. Again, a guy who's very young, but wise, I guess, in terms of hockey and not letting it shake his confidence there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's impressive that I think he's been impressive the last 3 seasons now, where just I think the mental game for how he plays, I mean, generally doesn't get rattled. I think he makes just good decisions throughout the game. And you can see that Boughner and DeBoer before, trusted him in tough situations. And that's what you want in a young defenseman, if you can get it.
Absolutely. And the Sharks seem to be getting a lot of that actually this season with a lot of their younger defensemen. Kellen Foster here saying the TA trick, which is hat backwards, trying to do a little play on anti-hat trick. I like that. I gave you the shout out, Kellen. Okay, you happy now? There you go. And of course, the other big story for this one with social media and whatnot, the Sharks win without Erik Karlsson in the lineup. Oh boy, here we go, Marshall. Here we go. Sheng Peng had an article, and I'm not going to go through it right now, but it articulates about how the Sharks are still better with Karlsson, and that saying that that they are better without him is complete nonsense when you look at the numbers. So I understand they got their win without him, and more of this will develop as we continue to talk about the Sharks during this week here. But yeah, I'm with Sheng on this one. It's kind of ridiculous to think that playing without Erik Karlsson makes you a better team. I understand they got the result, but I think the underlying numbers kind of do a little bit more of the talking there. One other thing here, and I'll see if I can figure it out. Yes, Ricky had said, no, I guess him and Anthony Sanchez had some back and forth there. We had the number 3 last season. We just traded it for Karlsson. So if you're talking about the number 3 pick, again, if we didn't get Karlsson, if everyone thinks we would have been a better team, that number 3 pick would not have been a number 3 pick. It would have been something else. So it's not really apples to apples there. I understand why everybody wants to say that to make it look like it was just that much worse. But realistically, it would not have been a number 3 pick because you never know how the season would have shaken out if you didn't have Karlsson on the team. And again, a lot of people think that we would have done better without Erik Karlsson. So if you truly believe that, it would not have been a number 3 pick. There you go. So that's kind of all I really wanted to talk about. The more you know. That's all I really wanted to talk about with the Anaheim game. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to bring up, but otherwise I'm ready to move on.
Let's move on.
Good to go. Okay, so St. Louis, the next guys on the chopping block here. Unfortunately, the Sharks do lose this game 3-2. It was an overtime game, though, so we do pull a point out of it, which is, again, if you were to tell me that this team, who's supposed to be so bad, is going to go and play against St. Louis, who is supposed to be so good, and we're going to end up, I'll fast forward just a little bit. We win tonight. We lose, but in overtime, the last time we played them, that's 3 out of 4 points. If you were to tell me we were to pull 3 out of 4 points and we're supposed to be the worst team in the league, I'm happy with it, right? So, not a bad result. So the pregame skate, though, apparently, and none of the reporters and media folks saw this at all because they can't be there. But apparently, Bob laid into the team for having a weak pace during the drill. And I can't say the words, but he says, "Get effing serious. Is this a effing joke to you guys?" So yeah, he really dropped the hammer on these guys during the pregame skate there, and I think it resonated with the group, and I think they came out with a little bit more effort than they usually do. Kind of show the coach, hey, no, we mean this. We take pride in our work. So kind of a kick in the pants by Coach Bob, which I think he's been doing a little bit more and more lately.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the scoring and the wins aren't there, you need at least the effort and seeing them put in the work. And I think that's what I would agree with him. That's something they weren't doing the last 3-4 games until the St. Louis game when he yelling at him, and tonight. And I think that's you can't have a lack of performance from a scoring and winning, and then a lack of effort, sandpaper, jam. Like that's like, why even show up if you're not going to have at least one of those things, if not both? Which I can appreciate why he was yelling at the team.
Absolutely. So I mean, they did play very well all game long, I thought. And this is again another game where, like you said, the effort was there. The effort was apparent, right? You can see them churning and trying hard, which is not something that we see all the time, and something I've been critical of Erik Karlsson before as well. I would like to see more out of Erik Karlsson. I feel like he glides around a lot. I feel like he stands around a lot. He uses his stick, and he uses his stick well, but at the NHL level, kind of holding your stick out there doesn't do enough, right? There's enough guys that are capable and strong on the puck and strong on their stick to kind of get around that. So I would like to see Erik Karlsson do more. And of course, he wasn't playing in this game, but that was just kind of a critique that I've had of that particular player. But this is something that kind of the entire team needs to do, right? The entire team needs to play with that gusto, play with that effort. And actually, Kevin Kurz had asked Brent Burns about the effort that night, saying, hey, it looks like you guys, really putting in a lot of effort tonight. And Burns was kind of blunt about it. He says, I'd like to think that we always try hard, that we always put in the effort. We take pride in coming to work every day. And I think people forget that this is a job for them. This is their work. They don't go in there and just kind of, hey, it's fun, goof off, whatever. Like, they have a good time. But at the end of the day, this is their job. This is what they do. And they do take a lot of pride in it. So, again, furthermore, with that interview, Burns had said that, he's never really thinking to himself, like, I'm going to take the night off. He says, it may look like it sometimes. It may look like I'm sleepwalking out there, but I'm not. He goes, sometimes, you're trying harder because your team is behind. And sometimes when you're trying harder, you're not playing smarter, and you end up making more mistakes, and you end up not being in the right spot. And it looks like you're not trying hard, but really you're trying even harder because you guys are behind, right? So I just thought it was funny because it was this really awkward back and forth between Kurz and Burns. And I encourage you guys, if you get the opportunity, to check out that media that media roll, that video, and you can see the questions being asked. It's kind of funny how they go back and forth. And he used a word, and if you guys caught it, he did use a word that obviously I'm not going to say, and that they clipped out of the video. He says, I don't mean to be a, but it was just kind of funny hearing Burns kind of, drop the filter for a second there. But anyway, so yeah, it was just really cool being able to see or hear from Brent Burns talking about, this is something we take pride in. We're not out there slacking off, even if it looks like it. So, I didn't want to ever kind of question their effort ever again, really, after that one. So there you go. Jones played very well in this game as well. He is making some really big saves. He's looking like he's in a lot better form lately. I don't know if that has to do with maybe the tongue lashing that he has received over the past couple of games by Coach Bob. I think there was the 6-2 game where he was saying, we expect better. That's is not up to our standard of goaltending, and it shouldn't be up to his. If that was maybe something that kickstarted it, if it was, Devin Dubnyk, working with him, they had always said before the season started, Dubnyk had said, we want to be a tandem. We want to push each other. We want to get each other, positive vibes, getting in the right direction. We want to compete, but in a positive light. So I don't know if that was part of it. If Coach Evgeny Nabokov had kind of found a little part of the game that he wanted him to work on and kind of drill over and over on certain things. So I mean, who knows? But whatever it is, it seems to be working out for Martin Jones. He's looked phenomenal these last few games. And even though Dubnyk gets the start tonight's game, I thought every time that Jones has played in this last little stretch here for this week at least, he's looked pretty solid.
Yeah, I think Paulie definitely, Jones has given the team a chance to win, made saves where you need the save, and you kind of have to depend on the rest of the forwards and wingers to put the puck in the opposite net. I like the tandem of Dubnyk and Jones. I like that sort of positive competition for sure. I also have a fun fact for you. Did you know who the two tallest players on the San Jose Sharks are?
I'm trying to remember if it's got to be Brent Burns, I would think, is one. And Jones, the other one? Jones is 6'4".
It's Dubnyk and Martin Jones.
Really?
Dubnyk is 6'6". I had to look that up because he was a giant in the game day. And I saw him standing next to Burns, a couple of players on the Blues. I'm like, this guy's he's giant. He's huge. And he's the tallest guy on the team. I didn't know. And then Jones and Burns are listed at the same height.
I think they're listed at 6'4", if I'm correct. Yeah,
I think it's 6'3" for each. At least that's what the NHL site has. But I was surprised that both goalies are the tallest guys on the team. Didn't know that. If
you're going to be the tallest guy on the team, goalie's not a bad position to be playing.
For sure.
Absolutely. So there you go. And the more you know. I think again, Jones looked good, but I do also want to bring back something that I've said several times on this show. As the defense looks better, Jones's numbers will look better. I don't think anyone can deny that the defense, even with Clayson and Milosh and Knizhov playing in a top 4 role now and Ferraro playing in a top 2 role now, the defense has looked pretty solid. And I think a lot of that, again, has to come down to Bob's system and the guys buying into it and it crystallizing was the word that he uses, right? They don't have to think about it as much anymore, that they're just playing it now. I think a lot of that has to do with the lower goals against, although tonight wasn't really that case in terms of lower goals against. But I do think that they played some solid periods. In the first and the third, they basically shut them out. It all happened again in that notorious second period, right? But I think all in all, the defense have stepped up, played really well, and that means the forwards as well, not just the defensive pairings, but the forwards have been helping out as well and clearing pucks out. And only giving the goaltenders shots that they can really see really well. Not only, but a lot of the majority of the shots, I think, are ones that are very savable, and the goalies are making the saves. So again, as the defense plays better, I feel like, again, those goaltending numbers, those aren't really the goalie numbers. They're kind of like team numbers for me, right? Because again, if the team's playing well, the goalie numbers are going to look great. So, again, Jones has been good. Don't get me wrong. But I also want to give credit where I feel credit is due, is that the defense is looking really good. And again, Clayson and Malak, they have been absolutely steady, and Couture and Jones both commented as much in the postgame when I asked them the question about these two guys. How do you see it? How have they stepped up and whatnot? And Jones is saying, yeah, they've been great in front of us. And Couture saying the same thing. They've been really steady back there, reliable. So again, my hat's off to the two guys who have played no games really with this team whatsoever. Clayson obviously getting pulled in, and Milosh being on the Barracuda and jumping in. So he's a little, at least familiar, but he's not played with these guys before really. So awesome job by them stepping in. Also, again, Ferraro is still running at 110%. He's an Energizer bunny. He doesn't know 100%. He only knows the top of the top speed. This guy is, whenever there's a puck in the corner, he's the first one to go after it. Whenever there's a guy who's got the puck, and he's nearby, he's after him and he's on top of him. I love this guy's energy. I love his compete level. I love his skill level. There's just nothing to not like about Mario Ferraro. And even Marc-Edouard Vlasic, who a lot of people have been down on this season, obviously. There was a clip of, I think Hedican had kind of broke it down and said, here's Marc-Edouard Vlasic in the corner battling with these two guys, and there's two blue players. And one of them had the puck, and he's in there. He's got his hand on him, and he's shoving him, and he's got his stick in there, and the puck squirts out the other way. And Vlasic flips over to the other guy, and he going back and forth, I think 2 or 3 times. And he was looking very active, very strong in his skates, very strong with his stick, and he just looked like he was ready to get to play. It was a gamer, at least in that moment. I know that there are times where he's not doing it for anybody, and I get that. But all around, I think that the defense has done just a marvelous job playing around the goaltending or the Martin Jones or David Dumick, whoever it is, with the absence of Erik Karlsson and Radim Šimić. I think they've all kind of stepped up. What do you think?
I mean, the three you were talking about at the start, I mean, Miloš, Knizov, and Klesson, the fact that they have not stood out, and that's a good thing, right? Like they look like they fit in the system. I think all three of them are bigger bodies. One of them, obviously, Klesson's got more NHL experience, so he's actually, you'd expect him to be sort of up to the speed of the game. But all three of them, I think, have looked good. Big bodies, more physical than I'd say Karlsson would be. I mean, Šimić is a physical guy, but smaller than the other three that are back there now. And to be able to just have your two starters and one of the highest paid players in the league not be playing, and I think not have things fall apart. I mean, that's a credit to, I mean, system and de-coaching and everything else, but the three players who were starting in those second and third pairings.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Knizov. I didn't really get to say anything about him. But yeah, no, he looks great. He was entrusted in some time in the overtime period there as well. This is a guy who I made a comment last show saying, I could see him, at least on this team, playing in the top four. And of course, now he's in the top four. But, I asked Bob about this. I said, what is it about this guy, essentially? Like, how nice is it? Because I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you the one that said that he just kind of came out of nowhere in training camp, the abbreviated training camp that you guys said? You didn't expect him to make the team. So, what can you tell me about this guy? And he says, I got to give credit where credit's due. You got to give credit to the scouting staff. You got to give credit to the training staff, the development group. All these guys had a really big hand in getting him prepared and ready to go. And first of all, just finding him in the first place. So, he didn't want to give too much credit to himself. That's a nice Bob move there. But yeah, so I think everybody playing defense right now I've had good things to say about them. And I think you're absolutely right. Not just the young guy standing out, but I haven't had anybody really stand out too much that I really want to point the finger at and say, gosh, this guy is just repeatedly, not doing the right thing. And, before Erik Karlsson was injured, he was one of the guys I would point at and go, he's not moving his feet. He's still not moving his feet. Every time I look at him, he's never moving his feet. Until he gets the puck, and then he takes off and everything, right? But on the defensive side, he just kind of stands still, and that always bothered me. With these guys, at least this group of six, I should say, again, you're right. They don't stand out to me. So that is a good thing, and I think as long as we kind of continue on this trajectory, this is what I was talking about before, I feel like the trajectory for the Sharks could go up as well. I feel like we could be a better team than what we've shown previous. And I think these last couple of games show more what the Sharks are actually capable of. Not necessarily that they'll sustain that, but that's more playing to their capabilities, I would say. Let's see, what else do I got here? Kane and Hertl had opportunities. Yeah, it's this. So Kane and Hertl had chances to score here. Okay, there was kind of wide open net on a couple of these, and I think it was Hertl had an open net and Kane had a breakaway or something to that effect. And it could have been a win. They could have put the game away. And it's not bringing up this point to dog on them so much, but it's bringing up the point to say they generated opportunities still. There was still an opportunity for them. It wasn't like we got ran over and they were pinning us in our zone and we ended up losing 3-2 in overtime. We had opportunities. We were getting chances. They were still playing hard. They didn't give up. So, again, this is another bright spot for this team for me. I don't know if you've got something else you want to add to that, or if you wanted to jump to the next little topic here.
Paul, I mean, I'll take the other side of that for a second. I think Tomáš and Timo Meier, we talked about how the defensemen weren't standing out. That's a good thing. I think Timo Meier and Tomáš Hertl, you just mentioned, probably the two players I'd call out for the last 4, 5, 6 games. There's moments where they've certainly shown up, but for what I think the Sharks have hoped for their development and ramp and kind of the load they can shoulder for this team, I'd say neither one of them has created enough, right? And they need to be the people driving the play. They need people creating space. I mean, Tomáš is a big boy, plays like Jaromír Jágr when he's really playing well and possesses the puck. And I haven't seen enough of that in the last 2 weeks and probably just the season entirely, where, he started, I think, hot and then sort of has faded a bit. And I, don't notice him for stretches of at least today's game and even the prior St. Louis game.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. I think those are a couple guys that could definitely do more. Couture and Kane don't fall in that category for me. Even Kevin LeBanc played pretty well as of recent. But, for me, my complaint with Timo was, dude, put your shoulder down and go to the net. that's where you're the best, right? That's where your game is its strongest, is when you're using that ridiculous body of yours to kind of bulldoze your way and force your way into those high danger scoring chance areas, right? And we saw actually him today. Somebody tried to deliver a hit. I think it was Krug, who tried to deliver a hit to him, and he just stood there, and Krug bounced off of him. Now, Krug's not the biggest guy, but from his time in Boston, you could tell this is a guy that loves throwing his body around still. He might not be the biggest, but he's got a lot of energy. He's just kind of like a Mario Ferraro for me, only obviously a lot more refined in the NHL. But, I mean, he's a guy that's not going to give up on you. And for Krug to come in and try to hit Timo when Timo just stood there, it's just a testament to how strong Timo is on his skates. And I wish he would use that strength more often to bully his way into the crease, you know? So I 100% agree with you on that one. I think Hertl, I'm with you on Hertl. I would like to see more, obviously, because, you know, it's always fun to see more out of Hertl, but I think he's done a decent job, and I think he's just kind of waiting to break out of some little bit of a slump, maybe. I know he's probably got some points in the last couple games here, but I think he's capable of more, like you're saying, and whatever it is that's holding him back, I feel like it's just kind of a little confidence thing. As soon as he hits that, he'll be right back on the train there, and I think he'll be okay. One thing that I don't normally complain about, and I know Aaron does, and he's in the chat, so I'm going to call him out anyway, is that there's some complaints about the reffing in this game, and actually, consequently, in the game today as well, which also happened to be in St. Louis against St. Louis. So there's kind of some conspiracy theories, I'm sure, on social media. They're throwing that one around, but I don't usually go there but it did seem a little bit lopsided in that game. It seemed like there were things that were happening against the Sharks that weren't being called. And there were things that were happening against the Blues that were kind of ticky-tack, and they were getting called. So, again, it's not for me to sit here and say that, oh, there's a conspiracy that we're still paying for the Timo Meier hand pass, right? That's not what I'm saying. But I did want to bring it up just because social media kind of had some things to say about that. But still, again, all in all, St. Louis is the better team here, and I'm happy to walk away with at least just the 1 point in this game. Again, if you were to tell me that the team that was supposed to be at the bottom of the pack here was going to walk away with 3 out of 4 points in 2 games against St. Louis in their barn, I'd be more than ecstatic with that. So moving on to the second game here, of course, the Sharks do win this game by a score of 5-4. But so Kane and Couture line, again, this is a line that we were talking about, saying that they don't fit the bill from the Hertl and Timo, right? They open up with 2 goals in the first period, and Kane was skating like a man possessed. He was out there moving his feet really hard. And that's one of the things I love to see, is that these guys not just kind of having skill, but having work ethic and tenacity. And again, I don't want to question anybody's ethic and their effort on the ice, because Burns kind of laid in the curse on that one already. But I think there was a difference in the tenacity, right? And I did ask about that. I think it was Logan Couture. I asked him after today's game about where does that tenacity come from, and he says, this is one of those things against this type of team. You have to go after them. You have to go after their defense, and they're going to turn the puck over. They're going to force a turnover if they go in like that, and that's one of the things that Evander Kane did. He came right in after, I think it was Binnington had the puck behind the net, and he forced him to rim that puck around the boards. And who was there? Kevin LeBanc fires it right over to Couture, who bangs it in. And it was one of those things that, even though Kane doesn't get the assist on that play, that's all because of him. It's all because of that work ethic. It's all because of how hard he was chugging his legs out there. So, I was very happy with that. And again, those high pressures, forcing turnovers, those are things that the Sharks can continually do to get more chances against any team. It doesn't just have to be the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, I think the compete level is what you're sort of talking about. And you hear talked about by Boughner and others, where you can just see the effort is there from the likes of. I mean, Kane it's obvious when it's on and obvious when it's off, but I think you can see it with other players as well. But that line in particular, when they started the game, I thought it was a great first period, and they were just kind of rolling. And you could see St. Louis was back on its heels, and it was 2 mistakes in a row that basically led to both goals to start the game, and came off of just the effort from the team.
Very good. Okay, so let's see. Kind of looking through our little notes here. So broadcasters were pointing out the hard work by John Leonard and Noah Gregor. Of course, again, this comes down to the same thing I just talked about with Evander Kane, which was moving those legs. Now, they had talked about this during the broadcast, saying that, there was a kind of a loose puck, and John Leonard was battling for it, and not just battling with your stick, right? There's one thing when you try to, stick lift, get the puck, and use your shoulders and everything else, but he was driving his legs, and that's one of the great things about these young guys was the effort in the legs, really, more than anything else for me, and something that Hedekin had said as well. Driving those legs, getting yourself moving. That's how you're going to get yourself up the ice. Not just trying to play smart with your stick and trying to play smart with your shoulders, trying to body angle people off and everything else, but really using those legs. And we've seen this. If anybody's ever seen the movie Miracle, which I know Aaron hates because he says it's not real, which is fine. But the phrase "the legs feed the wolves," I mean, that it's the truth, right? You can have all the skills in the world, but if you can't skate and you're not trying to burn the guy that's coming after you, you're not going to get there. So, again, really good to see, not just in the veteran guys, those big, powerful, strong guys like Evander Kane and Timo Meyer, but the younger guys kind of taking that same boost of energy from the veterans, and applying it to their own game, really driving home and getting scoring chances off of it because they're moving their legs. And I think that a lot of times you see guys that just aren't moving out there. Again, my biggest gripe with Erik Karlsson, if he would just move his legs, for me, he would be a much better player in the eyes of pretty much all the haters that are on him, right? So I don't know. I think, again, for me, it comes right back down to those legs, and that's what they were talking about with John Leonard and Noah Gregor. So yes, but of course, those second periods, Marshall. So the Sharks are up 2-0, and everything's looking great. And then the second period rolls around. So go ahead and take that one from here.
Yeah, I think the second period season to date is our worst goal differential, and it just got worse this game, minus 9 or 10, I think, relative to opposition scoring. I don't know what to make of that. I'm sure it has nothing to do really with like the long change that happens in the second period. It's probably a lot more about, I don't know, just mental effort, average age of, bottom half of the roster, making sure people are locked in and ready to go when they get back on the ice after that first break. It just seems like that's a pretty glaring weakness at the moment, that second period start, and just trying to keep your foot on the gas.
Absolutely. And I can't figure out for the life of me, mostly because I just talk about the Sharks and I'm not actually in the organization. But I can't figure out for the life of me why it's the second period, because it's always the second period. Maybe it's the long change. I don't know. Or maybe it's just a bad period and we've had a lot of road games. And so the long change with not having the last change, maybe that is a combination that's been killing us. I don't know. Maybe we play more games at home. The second period will look better. Who knows? But all I know is in this game, the Sharks were outscored 4-2 in the second period. And the Sharks actually had a 3-0 lead and a 4-1 lead, and they kind of coughed it up twice. So, the Blues come back and it's 4-4 to start the third period. And, Bob had said that he was proud of the guys after a character period on the third period that it was. He's saying bouncing back after they led a 3-goal lead slip, twice essentially, right? So, it was nice to see them actually come out again with that effort, with that, this is my job. This is work. I'm going to go and put my hard hat on and get it done. So Couture scores the third goal, scores in the third, scores his second goal of the game, and the Sharks hold on. Now, this is one that it looked like it bounced off of Rudolph Balcer's shaft of his stick there, but apparently it just sailed over it. So they ended up giving it to Couture, then giving it to Balcers, and they gave it back to Couture. Just make up your mind. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anyway, because, again, it was the fifth goal in the 5-4 win for the Sharks, which happened again just tonight. So, again, it was a character period for them bouncing back, not getting down on themselves. Bob was very happy with that. And actually, it's pretty funny because we talked about the officiating in the previous game and how it was a little bit sketchy. Tonight was, again, a night where the officiating was not in the Sharks' favor. And I get that there are times where one team is just not going to take penalties and the other team is. However, when you look at a lot of these plays and you see the trip on Knyzhov, I think is who it was, you're kind of looking at that and going, that's an easy call. Why aren't we calling this, right? And then the other things going the other way, again, like the Sharks, Timo Meyer with the stick up in his, that's just a dumb penalty. We got to stop doing that stuff, right? But when the refs are calling things kind of a little bit lopsided, you kind of wonder why that's the case. And again, I don't have any conspiracy theories, but I really wish that either you put the whistles away or you call everything that the way it's supposed to be called and nothing kind of in between. Because that's kind of where I think you start getting this lopsided effect, right? So, yeah, a lot of people weren't very happy with the officiating, including Logan Couture. And when asked in the post game, hey, what did you think about the officiating? he gave kind of a little bit of attitude, maybe a little smile, a little smirk, and said, I have no comments on the refs. So very clearly he has many comments on the refs, just none that he's willing to share.
Well, I'll take the result and the win. I thought the officiating was fine, other than the Timo high stick where he took it right in the face. They didn't call it. It was in the second period. But I'm going to shift topics on you on the Blues here, Paul, and I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't know how many of you who maybe hate this guy as much as I do, but David Perron is somebody I have not liked for a good 6-7 years. Going back to the famous Joe Thornton comes out of the box and just decks David Perron coming by and like knocks him out of the game. It was amazing. Loved it. It was totally legal. No problem. And then after that, I've just hated him because he's always come after people. He's got the stupid smoked lens for his helmet, of which, listen, if you're Ovechkin, you can do that. If you're David Perron, you cannot do that. You're like the third guy in the NHL who does that. Like you're not that good. He's really not that good. And every time I watch the Blues and see him play, it makes me angry. That's it. That's all I got. Okay,
so yeah, the more you know. All right, so Ryan Reeves goes from St. Louis to VGK, and everyone hates him with VGK now, right? So St. Louis has got to have a bad guy. You may as well be Perron. Yeah, no, he's a lot more of a pest than I thought he was. I thought he was more of a skill guy, but maybe that was in his earlier years. And nowadays it seems like he's more of that pesky, I should say, kind of player. And he's got I think the most points on the Blues team, if I've heard the broadcast say correctly.
He's a good player for sure. Yeah,
maybe he's a good player, but see, in the same vein as like a Brad Marchand, right? Yeah, he's a really good player. Stop doing the stupid things. Stop being a turd. But that's part of what makes him so effective, I guess. So for Perron, maybe it's the same thing. Now, would we be saying the same thing if Evander Kane wasn't a Shark? I don't know. But, I don't really care for the guy that much, but I don't have a hatred. It seems like you have some childhood issues with David Perron.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Joe Thornton's not a fan either. And if Joe Thornton's not a fan, I will not be a fan. So
okay. That is fair. And for the record, yes, the smoky visor, get out of here, dude.
Yeah, come on.
Get on with it.
Yeah, Jumbo wants, I don't know if Jumbo wants us to get on with it or he wants Perron to get on with face mask, but it doesn't matter. We will push on a little bit here. So again, Sharks taking 3 out of a possible 4 points out of St. Louis. I'm more than happy with that. They do win that series because St. Louis only pulled 2 points with their win. So for me, all is well. It helps us climb the standings. And, I think this team is going to get just that much more solidified in the strategies that they use, in the systems that they play, in feeling comfortable with each other. The younger guys are getting a lot of really good experience, and it's not coming at the cost of wins. They're actually contributing and they're playing well. So, there's just too much good stuff happening right now for the Sharks. Again, the last, 3 games, it's 2-0-1, I think. Yeah, 2-0-1, 2 wins and an overtime loss. The big thing, and the reason why I said the last 3 games wasn't just because that's like their winning record, right? 5 out of 6 points. It's because they did that without Erik Karlsson. And again, a lot of people are going to point to this and see, we're better without Erik Karlsson. And to me, it's, again, from a numbers perspective, no, we're not a better team without him. But from a wins perspective, it's hard to argue against that. What do you think?
I think it's going to be interesting. Him being out, the 3 defensive lines. I'd have to go back and look at the time on the ice for each of the pairings, but I think it sort of helps just distribute out a little more evenly and don't have to be so top heavy. And I think that just saves everybody from, I don't know, feeling like they got to do too much on the one end, and also, the bottom pairing, they've actually got the ability to kind of get in the game, stay in the game. I think that's helpful. Obviously, Karlsson's going to be a back end and top pairing when he is healthy. To me, the more interesting thing is what are they going to do with the 3 sort of guys who've been trying out in the bottom 2 pairings, and are they going to keep Malash? Are they going to keep Knizov, Gleason? Who's going to get the starts? And Šimek is going to be back for a bit of a longer stint. And just time on the ice for all three of these guys, I think, is going to be beneficial to the team because you're just going to have more choices in the back line.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's rough because all those guys I think have played extremely well. Now, obviously, you get Šimić back in the lineup and you're a stronger team, period. I think Knyzhov is a lock. You absolutely keep Knyzhov. So it's going to be either Clayson or Miloš, whatever. So if, Šimić's playing on the left, then there's your answer right there. So the guy playing on the left is essentially going to be the odd man out, probably. Having said that, again, I think they've all kind of earned their spots where they are right now. So it is going to suck having one of them lead the lineup. At the same time, it'll be glorious having Šimić back in the lineup. So for me, I'm comfortable either which way. If it takes Šimić a little bit longer to come back, I don't think it's a huge detriment to the team. But if we get him back, it can only be a bonus to the team, right? So I'm happy either which way. It'll be interesting for me to see when Erik Karlsson comes back how this team performs, because if we start losing again, oh my goodness, can you imagine the pushback on social media? It's just going to be gross.
Well, poor timing too, because I think our next what's in the schedule coming up, we got Colorado, Vegas again. There's Colorado in particular, there's your big test, I think, for every team this year. So interesting to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, St. Louis is no slouch, but you're right. Colorado and Vegas are kind of the big guns in this division. So we'll see what they're really capable of. This banged up group of Sharks, because we did go up against a banged up group of St. Louis Blues, but I don't care. I'm still happy with the win. Last thing, I think, and it was something that you wanted to bring up here, and it's actually something that you already brought up, the outdoor game. You want to go ahead and just take off there?
Well, hey, everybody on this on the broadcast, I'm sure, is a fan of Lake Tahoe, and I just thought it was interesting. It kind of shows the NHL's how they thought this season was going to play out. The fact that the closest, geographically speaking, NHL team to Lake Tahoe was not asked to play in any of the games. Maybe that's a good thing given how the ice was earlier today. Although I imagine it's pretty good this evening as they're playing while we're broadcasting, and then Philly and Boston tomorrow. Too bad. Would have been fun to see the Sharks up in Tahoe. Might have tried to make the trip and get out on a kayak and watch the game.
Yeah, nice. No, honestly, with everything that happened today, though, it seems like anywhere that they had paint on the ice, the sun kind of soaked up in those areas, and it was kind of it was akin to a swimming pool, I think is what they had said. So having to put up with that and play a period that's kind of sloppy and then take off a few hours and then come back to play the other two periods. I think I'm with Coach Bob, and Coach Bob had said this actually before all that happened, I think. And he said, I'm glad that we're not a part of it. And I'm kind of with him. In hindsight now, I'm kind of glad that we weren't a part of that. Absolutely, it would have been cool. And I understand, everybody wanted us to go there. And I'm sure other people also understand that part of the reason the Sharks don't get to go to that game or don't get invited to that game is because the Sharks were horrible. So you don't want to get, even though the team is geographically closer to Lake Tahoe, you don't want to have a team that nobody wants to watch, because then what's the point of setting up this elaborate outdoor rink if no one's going to watch it, right? So I get that, but I know it would have been nice. It would have been cool to participate. I think I would rather wait until we can have a proper stadium series again, like kind of the Levi Stadium one that they did, where the ice isn't going to be problematic. You can have fans there. The fans can go and see the game, right there instead of having to watch it on TV. I would rather see that anyway. So, and again, in hindsight, with all the problems they were having, I am glad that the Sharks weren't a part of that whole debacle and had to deal with that whole thing. So that's really all I've got to say about that one. But yeah, I know it'll be nice to kind of pull up and watch. I do wonder, what time does the Philadelphia game start tomorrow? Do you know?
I think because the time is going to be about the same as the start earlier for Vegas and Colorado. They swapped the early and late game tomorrow. Capitals, I think, were the late. Now they're the early, and it's 4 Pacific, I think.
Okay. I got another $1.99 here from Lundy. Actually, we play Wild Monday. Easy W. Oh, it's never an easy W, Lundy. But yeah, no, that would be great. I would love to see a big win against the Minnesota Wild, against any team, really. You do kind of wonder, are they going to play Dubnyk against the Minnesota Wild? So who knows? In fact, let's do that real quick. Let's do a roll call. Everybody go ahead and tell us where you're from, where you're watching us from, I guess. And if you think Dubnyk should start against the Wild on we play Wild Monday. Yeah. So on Monday, if you think Dubnyk ought to play in the Wild game, face his former team, and see if he can pull 2 points out against them, let us know. Very good. Yeah, thank you. There you go. Good stuff. Okay. Gosh, you know what? Hey, let's just. I want to catch up on you. What have you been doing since the last? I don't know, 3 years. When was the last time we had you on the show?
Yeah, I did so well. You waited 2 years to have me back. I love that, how that worked out. Had a baby, so I did the Aaron Sholl maneuver, learning how to parent. Anyone in the chat who's got tips for how to be a father, I'll take them, because I always want to try and make novel mistakes as a new parent. Other than that, just continue to watch the Sharks and try and not get COVID in the process.
Very awesome. I saw Anthony Sanchez here earlier saying trade Burns. You don't have to put it on the screen there, but Anthony, I thought you were the one that was telling us not to say trade Burns because your wife keeps throwing the shoe at you. And now here you are in the chat saying trade Burns. What's going on, man? Someone want to explain this one to me? My goodness. Marshall, this is something we've talked about on the show as well, that with Seattle's expansion draft coming up, that they'll probably end up not protecting Burns. And Burns would be selected by Seattle, trying to protect Šimek. You have to protect Vlasic. You have to protect Erik Karlsson. I'm interested in your thoughts on this real quick, something that I had proposed, and I feel like this player might go for it. What if you tried to trade Marc-Edouard Vlasic, say to a team like maybe Montreal or whoever, is somebody that has always wanted him there, somebody who is a good team that he would want to play on, not playing in the bottom six, as right now he's playing in the top four only because Šimek and Karlsson are out. Normally they'd put him down in the bottom six because he got demoted. A place where maybe he could be a little bit more impactful and maybe just get a change of scenery. I feel like if they were to want that trade for Vlasic, that he would be okay with making that trade as well. Is that something that you think is a possibility? And if so, I will tell you more about the reasons behind that. So fire away.
I bet I can guess what some of those reasons are. The coming launch of the Kraken from Seattle. I think every NHL GM is going to be a heck of a lot smarter about this expansion team than they were about the Vegas Golden Knights. I think the Sharks played that relatively well last go round. Florida did not, with Marchessault and William Karlsson, and then a variety of other really stupid moves by, I think, GMs where I don't think they really anticipated how it was all going to play out. Now we're probably in a better spot. As to Vlasic, I think his upbringing in the province of Quebec, I think the fact that I believe his wife and dogs are still there presently. I mean, you could convince him at some level if you wanted to go play for the Canadiens. I'm not sure if that's the right move. I think the benefit of having the three guys we're talking about in the bottom two pairings, Milosh, Knizov, and Klesen, I mean, that certainly they continue to show and not stand out in a very good way. That probably gives you a lot more flexibility for Doug Wilson in just throughout the season, this year, and then going into the expansion draft where you're going to make some hard choices one way or another.
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess for me, either you're going to end up losing Burns for nothing, right? Or if you were to trade Vlasic, you get something back for him, right? And you protect those guys anyway. The only guy that's got on the defensive core that you would need to protect, because you don't need to protect Mario Ferraro. You can protect Karlsson, Burns, Šimek. Ferraro isn't old enough or hasn't played enough to need to be protected, so he's okay. And then a guy like Milosh or Knizov, right? They're obviously too young for that. And the only guy that's left of the current roster would be Klesen. And he's got 155 games of NHL experience, so he qualifies. All you'd have to do is give him a contract extension, and then he becomes the one defenseman that you have to have exposed. You have to have one, right? So he becomes that guy. On the forwards, basically you would end up protecting all the big guns, but then Kevin Labanc would be kind of like the odd man out, in which case they're probably going to take Kevin Labanc, right? So unless you finagle it a certain way and say, we'll give you this, we'll give you that, don't take Kevin, you would at least be able to expose enough of the forwards that you would qualify for that requirement. I think you have to have at least two forwards and at least one defense. So what you do is you give Sorensen a contract extension that would clear all that stuff up then. So essentially the best player that they would be able to take is LeBanc. If you wanted to keep him, again, you work some trade kind of thing going on, but then you don't have to expose Burns, and no matter how much you ask, they would take Burns. So that's kind of what I was thinking of, and I was just kind of curious what you thought about it. Yes, the more you know.
I mean, it's hard to know, to be honest, because I feel like there's a lot of things that Doug Wilson can do. And again, I think the experience with Vegas, San Jose navigated, I thought, pretty well. And what they did to avoid having somebody go directly to the team. I'm sure who went to Montreal. It's one of the defensemen, if I am not mistaken. Same thing here. I think where you try and not be put in that position in the first place, right? You try and get something get the thing to happen that you want to have happen. And I think Doug Wilson hopefully can navigate that well. And I just think, if you have more defensemen who can come in and play with Šimik and Karlsson out, that just makes your hand a little bit easier, right? You've got people you can deal. You've got more confidence in your bottom half of your roster. I mean, all that stuff's good stuff.
Very good. Okay, we'll wrap this up real quick here, but I do want to call out a couple of things. One, Anthony Sanchez says, Paul, I'm wearing new Bluetooth earbuds and my wife can't listen no more. So we can talk all the Burns trade talk without the fear of shoes being thrown. Anthony, very smart, but I have to say I'm a little disappointed it took you this long to figure out the solution, my friend. But hey, good on you, buddy. And then, of course, the $5 super chat from Brandon Kelsey saying, from Monterey, California, get on NHL, BK the Flyboy. Oh, okay. This is BK the Flyboy from NHL 21. He's one of the guys that plays with the group. And sure, I'll be on later on. And he says, Karlsson for a top 6 forward, a top 4D, and a 2022 third-round pick. BK, that ain't happening, buddy. There's no way that's happening. Right now, you could probably get the top 6 forward and maybe a third-round pick. You're not getting a top 4D that comes with it. Maybe you'd get that. I don't even think you would.
He's got to want to go.
Yeah, he's got to want to go, and the other team that wants him has got to be okay with having 3 groins somehow. It's a freak of nature. Who knows? Okay, yeah. Anthony says Jack Eichel. Yeah, no one's getting Jack Eichel, buddy. Don't worry about that. Okay, thank you guys. That was a lot of fun. Marshall, did you have a good time?
Had a great time. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the every 2-year cadence we're on. I'll see you in 2023, give or take.
Hey, man, Aaron can only make babies so fast, okay? The next time he has one, we'll have you come back on, okay?
Right. Noted.
All right. And as we say goodbye here, I want everybody in the comments to give Marshall some applause, some fire, some encouragement, maybe a little bit of thank you there. That'd be great. Yeah, a little hashtag bring back Marshall. There you go. There you go. Okay, guys. Hey, I've had a lot of fun doing this. It's been a great week for Sharks hockey. I think they did an awesome job playing these games, picking up points. And the young guys and the small guys, they've all stepped up and played really, really well. So I'm super happy with it, and I hope you guys are as well. So for super producer Jason, I'm Paul.
I'm Marshall.
Hey, did it. And this is episode number, 104? Yeah, 104. And we will see you guys. Can you say it?
I don't know. I don't know what you
We'll see you guys next time. We don't know when. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, check out our other content, especially interviews. You can interact with us directly through social media at The Fin Factor and on Instagram at Fin Factor. And don't forget to join our live streams on YouTube.
Visit our website at thefinfactor.com, where you'll find all of our episodes as videos or podcasts. You'll also find our exclusive merchandise to help support our show.